All right, everybody, back to Snafu Performance Garage. So where we're at right now is the point where we're going to start making these engine plates. Sean's working on a template he's got over there on the workbench, just a cardboard template. We're going to cut that before we cut that expensive piece of aluminum that we got from Motion Raceworks. We're also going to work on the mid plate, and we'll do the same thing for that. Sean's going to make a template for it out of cardboard. We're going to trim that cardboard first. Once we're happy with it, everything fits in place the way we want it, then we're going to go and cut the metal. Now these front plates and mid plates, they don't come with any bracketry to mount them to the frame because they don't know what you're putting it in. You can put it in anything from a truck, a foreign car, an American car, whatever you might be doing. Those plates are just a generic plate. You cut it to fit. So we're going to make some brackets that are going to go down the frame. We'll put probably 2 or 3 3/8 bolts in them. We'll do the same thing in the back. It's going to go to the frame. We're going to line this engine up with the lasers. We're going to run the laser right through the crankshaft opening, right out the back of the transmission. And that's going to give us, it's going to be 100% dead straight to the center of that rear pinion. We already know our pinion angles, where we're going to be. We happen to be 13.5 inches from the ground to the center of our crank, 13.5 inches from the ground to the center of our pinion. It just worked out that way. It was real luck. In all honesty, I knew it would be close, but I didn't plan for that. It happened to be perfect. So we're going to do a degree down on the pinion, a degree up on the engine, and that gives us our correct pinion angle geometry for our drive line. They'll give you the 2 degrees, which falls directly in where we want it. We might go 0 with the engine and 1 degree down with the pinion. You just have to have a little bit of difference there so that those the universal joint bearings get to spin, going directly 1-to-1. People claim that the U-joint needle bearings don't get enough oscillation in there to keep the lubrication going. So we're going to follow that theme. I'm not an engineer. I don't know. This is what people tell me. I've read a lot of books about this. I've been told about this a lot to make sure there's a little bit of an angle in that driveline. So we'll make sure that's correct. We got to take the intake manifold and the carburetors off. It's just kind of, temporarily put in there with a couple bolts. We'll take the heads off so we can work with everything. We already know our distance to the firewall. We're as far back as we can go without modifying the firewall. We've got 0 clearance here at the back of the carburetor. So we're going to work on making up some kind of an air cleaner system that can bolt on with an oval lid. That's my idea. That's my plan anyway. We'll see if it works. I've got a good buddy of mine, Michael Heston. He's working on this thing. You might know him from the Bucket List Mob. So he's going to be working on that for us. We'll get that going out in Ohio there with him. That's going to be about it for the engine plates. And then once we get that all together, I'm going to be able to move this thing around. We're going to put the steering box, all the pieces together on the steering box, the center link, tie rod ends, idler arm, pitman arm. We'll mock all that up. We'll have this thing so it can steer, because pushing it around and trying to steer it and push it with the tires independent of each other, don't even try it. It's a nightmare. And that's it. So just follow along. This is going to be cool. Hold that head. I want to hold this tip it.
I'm not sure how to button.
Yeah.
Oh,
God, you were at the. Oh, I thought you were here to hold it.
I was taking it off.
Told you it was gonna. Don't drop it. This is the one that decides to flaying off and on the floor, isn't it?
Whatever it chooses to, yeah.
Oh shit! Like right now.
Seems to be in the same spot.
Yeah. That got a little sketchy there for a second, didn't it? That really worked up my appetite for another bowl of chili. All right, so we're gonna have to pull the whole engine out so we can make a line on the frame, which we probably should have done before. We're gonna have to make a line on the frame in line with the center of the pinion so that this whole thing can be sitting at 0 where we want it. So we're gonna get to that. Pull it back out. One more time.
Whoa!
Whoa!
I think it's probably good there.
Oh, it's good there. It was good. You were right, man. It was excellent. You're gonna just let that spin out all day. You let go. I mean, it's only gonna go so far. Worst case, it hits the ground.
Perfect. Doesn't get more precise than this.
No. Not for us here in the garage, anyway. Right on the center of the pinion back there. We'll pull some line measurements just to make sure everything is dead center. And then we'll make some marks on the frame and we'll take it from there. All right. Now the goal is to set the laser up, have the laser shoot straight through the back of the engine, into the front of the pinion. Bing, bang, boom. We're right where we want to be. Then we'll go to the next step. Okay. We'll have to get underneath the truck and measure if it's dead center on the transmission or not. That's a whole other story. Because we can't just be dead center on the front of the block. We have to be dead center straight through. That way it keeps everything 100% in line. Man, the benefits of being my kid.
Oh, I just blinded myself.
You don't look at the laser. Thank God you can fit. I'm still too fat.
Okay, I can reach the transmission then.
Well, he's under there.
Can you see
It's
me?
considerably lower than it needs to be, I think, but that's okay. We'll get all this figured out. Look at where the oil pan sits. The oil pan sits perfect. It's up about an inch above the cross member, so you know, really, for what it's worth here, the oil pan on my Firebird hangs a little bit below the frame, and so do the headers and everything else. So everything is up above the frame as far as engine exhaust, all that is going to be above the frame rail, the bottom of the frame rail. So really, this isn't that bad. See Sean over there? Let's see if we get this thing straightened out.
See if I'm gonna be able to get out of here.
Figure it out. All right, so it was a pain in the butt, but we got everything where we want it. We got the block level from front to back with the laser and the level, or the digital angle finder. Sean's underneath there, doing his job under there, making sure everything's right where it belongs. So, yeah, that was a little bit tricky. I wish we had like a 4-post lift or something that was all leveled and squared that we can go down in, but he's tucked in all the way underneath there. But there he is. This is gotta be right though, where you'll have driveline vibrations and wrong angles and stuff like that. So we definitely want to make sure this is right. It's definitely worth putting the time into. So now we're actually going to start cutting out our pattern for the front plate. And then once we get it where we want it, we'll start bolting it together, and then we'll make up plates to bolt it to or weld it to the frame. And then it'll get through bolted, and then we'll move on to the back. So at that point, we're going to take the whole engine and transmission out. Once I have the front one so we can bolt it in, we'll be able to bolt it in and reference off of that point. We'll take the transmission off altogether, and then we'll just put the plate across the rear, and we'll profile it and get it to fit that firewall nice. And that'll be a win for today if we can get this done and get this engine just sitting in here on its own without any support underneath it. Then, like I said earlier, we'll be able to get the suspension components on, and this thing can get pushed in and out so that we can do what we got to do with other things.
Here's our template.
Just like it was made for it.
Precisely. And
So
that's obviously representing where the metal would be.
Right. So right off the bat, we know it's high. And we're just trying to get close to the template. We're going to leave the metal a little bit larger, and then we can trim everything down. But this will get us really close without having to cut that 400 times, which we really don't want to do that. So what I'm trying to do here is we obviously don't want to cut this like straight across to drop it down. So we're going to make a notch right? We're gonna leave a little bit of gap so it's not squeaking on the frame. We'll leave a gap up. So if we measure between the center of that hole to the center of where it needs to be is 2 7/8. So see, yep, it's almost exactly the same on both sides to my crude holes here. So let's start with, we'll go, let's go 2.5 inches up. See how close that puts us.
You can go all the way across on
That's
that.
all right, because we're gonna notch it in here. So that's about where it needs to be. So like I said, we're gonna leave a gap between the aluminum and the frame rail. We're not gonna go tight to the frame rail in here, because as this thing twists, it is gonna definitely still flex a little bit. And I wouldn't want this real tight to the frame where it's gonna, a chance of squeaking or something like that. So let's, we're just gonna eyeball about a 1/2 inch. And then we're gonna do the same thing over here. We're gonna go, what's that? Is that about a 1/2 inch, give or take a little bit? Doesn't have to be exact. So over on this side here, hold down on that, Sean, so I can make it work. What I want to do is I want to give us a notch. So we'll make this kind of a radius edge down here, and we want to leave as much material. I want to leave as much material here as I can, so it's stiff. And then this isn't going to have to come as tall as the frame, but I think we'll just do that. So I think over here, well, here we're going to just go just something like that. We'll make a better round on that with a paint cup or something like that. And then the same thing here, we're just gonna go, we'll go straight up and over. And then we'll do the same thing here. We'll just go straight up and over and make it look nice and neat. But that at least gives us a reference point. We have to clear this steering shaft, obviously, on this side here, so we'll do that. Let's go give it a try. What do you think of that?
Seems pretty good.
All right. If that all pans out, that'll look nice to have that on both sides. You never really want to cut into a corner like this. If you cut straight in this corner, this right here becomes a point to crack. It can crack here, it can crack like this. If you just go straight up and straight across, that's definitely a crack point. So what I like to try and do is every point where I'm going to have a corner, if I can, and if it'll clear, if this will clear the frame, I don't really know yet if this is going to clear the frame. We have to raise this all up. But if you radius this, it's not going to crack as easily right there. Because you got to figure out all that stress. You get twisting here, you got twisting here, and then you have this sharp point in the corner. It's like if you've ever broken tile before, or cut tile. All you have to do with tile is scribe it, and then you hit it on the front of the back, and then usually on the back you hit it, and it breaks right along that line. Well, if you make a line here that's a sharp point, it's kind of doing the same thing, and now it can just split in any direction. So just this looks nice, but it actually does have function. Look at that, I learned something in arts and crafts class. It's about 100% perfect on the first attempt, so that's exactly what we were looking for right there. Look at that. It's just a touch off the frame here. It's got to be a touch off the frame there to line up. So we don't even have to really, we don't even have to trim this anymore. That's awesome. So now, if we look around on the back side, check this out. Now this isn't going to apply to everybody's car, but what I'm going to do here, I've got this adjustment bolt, right, for my upper control arm. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to cut this short, right, so that we can slide that bolt out. And then the bracket that I make the bolt this to is going to kind of hang over that steering shaft. And then on this side, I got a ton of room because the way the frame is just different because there's not a steering gearbox there. So this side here, we'll do the same thing so it looks neat. We're going to cut this bracket back right to this eccentric slot here on both sides. So it'll be the same width from a visual perspective. We're going to cut it here, we're going to cut it here, and we'll radius this top edge. We'll radius everything else. And I'm pretty sure this thing's going to look like $1 million when we're done. It's really simple. As you can see, it's real simple. But we didn't want to go cutting that aluminum plate. I think that thing was 135 or 155 from Motion Raceworks. They made a really nice piece. So I don't want to have to go back and bastardize that thing. I want to try to do it once to do it right. So that's why it's a little extra time to make a template up. But there you go. We'll try to cut that out of there and make it look good. And one shot. And then we'll do a little grind, a little final, a little sanding. We'll bolt it on. Once that's all bolted in, we'll start making up the brackets that actually get welded to the frame. And then we'll get some 3/8 through bolts. Or maybe I'll even go 7/16. Maybe we'll go a little bigger on this thing. And then that's a damn good start, I think. Even that rag joint and everything fits like a glove right there. So I'm happy with that. I don't see any problems with that. It looks like we still are going to have serviceability there if we have to take that out. And God only knows that we're going to have our hands full making those headers. All right, we're right there in line with the control arm bolt, right?
That was in line.
Right in line with that control arm bolt
That was
there.
in line.
That's exactly what we wanted. So it's pretty cool how much it shrinks down the size of that thing. I mean, it was that was enormous before, and you know that additional material is on that, not really doing anything. So we'll radius these edges here to match that inside radius there. I'm going to leave these bottoms square because that'll be where our main bolts go. We're going to go ahead and we'll cut the aluminum plate now, and then we'll get that bolted to the front of the block. Once that's bolted to the front of the block and we're real happy with where everything's at, we will start making up our brackets that weld to the frame, and then we'll take it from there.
A little Marky Mark action here.
Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. Yeah, I'm going to show you guys something really cool that you can do with aluminum. You're not going to believe your eyes. Some of you are going to already know this, but I'll be right back. Meanwhile, back in the jungle. Try to believe your eyes. Got the Hitachi. Talk about accuracy right there.
Where's Waldo books come out when you were a kid?
No, they started coming out when I started working on cars and I couldn't find anything. Oop, but there it is. That's it. Aluminum cutting.
Wow.
All right. So this blade is actually meant for cutting aluminum. And you really don't have to have a special saw to do this. Your regular old 7 or 7.5 inch circular saw is really all it takes. Ready?
Yeah.
So we'll see how hard this is to do. Can't remember the last time I used a hole saw on 1/4 inch aluminum. But the WD-40 trick works real good on the aluminum as well. Pretty damn close. We'll just come in here and
grind it.
we'll hit that with the grinder or the belt sander. Probably take it to the belt sander. It'll keep that radius real nice. Get this a little bit better. know what you think, but that's pretty damn dead on the money. Looks like all the holes are going to line up. I didn't get the bolts in yet. We'll get everything in. So we're going to get everything in. We'll bolt it on. We'll make 100% sure everything is sitting level before we make our outside brackets and our holes. But I don't know. I'm pretty damn happy that we didn't have to have a $50,000 CNC table to make that. You can make that right in your garage, like you saw what I used. A hole saw, a circular saw, and a belt sander. Now you can do that with a 4.5-inch grinder. You don't really necessarily have to have the belt sander for it, but it sure made those radiuses nice. And then you guys saw how I made a nice curved edge. Making a nice consistent curved edge like that would be a real pain if you were trying to cut this with a you know, just into the corners. And again, make those radiuses, it just keeps it strong. But I don't know, I think that looks pretty cool. If this is in the way out here, something ends up being in the way at some point, we might have to trim it in another spot. But for right now, that gets us in. That's going to get all of our brackets. I'm going to build something that's going to stand up here. We'll probably end up just having like 2 bolts here and maybe 2 bolts right over here. Nice and simple. I don't know, maybe I'll even go 7/16 since a big block Chevy uses some 7/16 stuff down here. This one's 3/8. These 2 are 3/8. These are both 7/16 coarse thread on a big block Chevy. So we'll do that. Front plate's completely finished being ground and shaped. We made up these plates. They're 1/4 inch thick. They're real strong. These, we probably won't go this strong with the mid plate, only because I don't think it's really necessary. I went pretty overboard with the size of these. But being all the way hanging out in the front of that frame like that, and being able to go through aluminum, and I can't put a very big piece over here on this side because of the steering shaft and all that. I want to make them a little more heavy. We're going to be putting some gussets in here, tying them into the control arm brackets and stuff like that. So anyhow, we're going to just drill 2 holes. We've got everything clamped up exactly where it sits on the frame. So we basically, you know, made these notches. Everything sits down on the frame. I had a radius just like this. This is all to make clearance for the steering gearbox and the steering shaft. So that's where we're at. We'll make sure everything's bolted together, and then we'll bolt this back to the front of the engine. So kind of just made these brackets so that they're flush with the outside edge on both sides. This one here, it's got so much material for me to weld, I didn't give this little extra kick out. You can see on this other side here, what I did is I just added, you know, a little kick out here that's going to just go to the edge of the frame rail. And then, you know, it's just something else to weld to, something else for a little support. This is the torque side of the engine. Obviously, it's going to be trying to lift up this way. But, you know, we're going to have so much material welded right here. This here, I put this leg that comes down. I don't know if you can see it with one of our, I don't know where the lights are showing, but I don't know if you can see down here, you know, I put this piece down in here. I kind of had to radius it so that we can get the steering shaft on and off. Hey everybody, so we got our Motion Raceworks front engine plate mounted on this big block Chevy. As you can see, we got everything profiled out. We got everything right where it belongs. We've got our brackets that are going to be welded to the frame situated, ready to be welded. We got to just grind the frame down, get everything nice and clean, get a good solid weld on there. We'll do that. We'll put our gussets on. We're not going to be able to show you that in this video, unfortunately. We got a lot of other things going on. It's Mother's Day weekend. We got some other commitments we have to follow through on. But please like, subscribe, follow us, tell us what you hate, tell us what you love. We've got the mid plate coming up next. We're going to do that. Then we'll get the suspension back in. So appreciate you guys hanging in there, hanging out with us, watching what we're doing. Please tell us what you like, tell us what you hate. And that's it. You know, until next time.